Alright, ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be doing a two-part cast. And for the two-part cast, you need something that is bilaterally symmetric. Same things on both sides without undercuts. Anything that'll like block it. So, the ultimate in bilateral symmetry is the fish.
Is that real?
Now, this fish was not killed for this. This fish committed fish-icide. Found him on the ground.
Oh my god.
But completely bilaterally symmetric, no undercuts whatsoever. So I'm going to be using this guy to make a mold. But first, plaster. Now, you will notice, please, the fish in the plaster. You need to have a thing that will allow you to put your finger all the way around it. So when you're making the mold of the piece, you want to have enough mold all the way around to get your subject in there. So, let's see if we can start mixing this sucker up. Get the plaster rolling. I may need to have more plaster in there. I'm going to need to have more plaster in there. That's not enough.
Do you want a scooping thing?
No, I'm fine. I'll just shake this out.
Making a mess.
Alright. And that's why we got brooms afterwards. Okay. A little more of this. Remember adding the water to the plaster. That came out much too thick, so I'm going to have to water that down a little bit. I need to have it be a pudding-like consistency. And I know a lot of you guys like pudding, so let's get the lumps out of it, get the bubbles out of it, and then the interesting part of this is sitting the piece in. Oh, I'm still not done yet. Look at that. Now remember, this stuff has about a 40-minute pot life. And when you're mixing stuff with water, whether it's plaster or alginate, use cold water. If you use hot water, it drastically reduces the pot life. I've had stuff set up while they're mixing it because it simply did not have enough pot life. The hot water just made it kick right away. All right, so far so good. Got that there. Now, I'm going to let the bubbles work themselves out because what I'm going to have to do really at this point is lay the fish right on top. I want to find that midline, that central line, where it is bilaterally symmetric, and lay it right on top. And the chief part is this guy should sit right on top once those bubbles go away. With some items, if you're doing something rather heavy, you may have to attach some kind of tether to it so you can get it to sit just right. What we do in the class a lot of times is we'll hot glue a piece of wire to it. And so we can set it in there and use the wire to bend around the sides of this to keep it at the right level. Now, this stuff does set up in about 40 minutes, so we're going to come back in about an hour and we'll do part 2. So before the fish starts to really smell, we'll get this all worked out. Come on. No bubbles.
Smells already.
Make it the bubbles go away. You can pause for a minute because I'm going to have to,
Okay, you're good.
Okay, so now I have mostly the bubbles free. Now the trick is going to be to lay the fish where I have it laying bilaterally symmetric. I got enough room all around for it to work. Now, see those fins? That's the nice thing about the fins. The fins on a fish tell you right where it is bilaterally symmetric. So right now that looks like we're there. We got enough room all around the fish, and we're good. We will return here in about an hour and pick it up with phase 2.
Done.
So, hey, before we do part 2, part 1 finished, how did this stuff come out? This was the, cornstarch and, what was it? Cornstarch and
Conditioner. Hair conditioner.
Now, it still has a little bit of flex to it. Down here, oh, look at down here, it's not set up at all.
Well, don't squish it.
Well,
Try to get the shell out.
I'll get the shell out, but it's just, as a material, it's not setting up very well.
You could freeze it.
We could try freezing it, but again, that doesn't necessarily make it set up. So it's a wonderful little thing to mold and mess with, but it's not a molding material. Something to create the positive, not create the negative. All right, now, how do we go about doing part B? So, fish is in there, all dead still, and this stuff is now set up. What we need to do at this point is to create what are called coins or keys. You need something in the sides here to lock the first part to the second part. Now, the nice thing about plaster, after it's just set up, is it's very flexible. It's still sort of soft. So what I'm doing in here is I'm carving a couple of gashes in this material, far away from my actual subject. But what will happen with this, once I get this worked out, all the pieces worked out of it, what we're going to have now are these two spots on the side where when I pour the new stuff in, it'll set down into that. So what I'm going to do is create like a cavity and a piece that locks into it, and that'll keep those two pieces together. It'll let the top part and the bottom part lock together and keep the fish in the right orientation. I don't know if you guys have ever found something that was not put together correctly and the pieces did not line up correctly. All right, so now, but first, the nice thing about fish is they come pre-released. They got some slimy stuff on the outside of them. So I am not worried about getting the fish out of that particular piece of plaster, but I am concerned about getting one piece of plaster from the other. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a little bit of this lotion heat stuff. Vaseline is what we usually use in the shop. And all I'm going to do is sort of smear that around here to make sure the plaster is not going to lock to the other plaster. This is one of the issues with two-part molds. You have to have both parts, when you're making them, released from each other. Alright, and I've missed that whole area up there. Look at that. Alright, so again, we're doing this in the shop. We like make our own pieces, we make our own setups here, and the box is made to be the right size. Alright, so now let's pour and mix. The nice thing about this particular part of it is all the bubbles will be going the other way, up and away from our fish, not down onto our fish. So with any luck, I got to get that pudding consistency again. Obviously not enough water. Be able to get the bubbles out, get it all mixed up, and then in about an hour or so, take the two pieces apart and see how the fish comes out. The fish will be, at this point, remember, plaster does get a little hot in the process of setting up. So I expect the fish to be somewhat cooked a little bit, but we will be discarding the fish after this. The fish will have served its purpose, and now we will have a lovely negative, and I'm sure some, roaming creature would love to eat a semi-cooked, slightly plaster-flavored fish.
Wouldn't they die?
From eating a fish? No,
Not
not
even plaster on the fish.
No, there won't be plaster on the fish. Plaster's going to stay in the mold here. It'll be plaster flavored.
Oh, it's like remnants.
Remnants, yes. All right, I'm still very thick here.
Get more water in there.
Yeah, got to get more water in this. All right, pudding consistency. Getting there. All right, now we're talking. It doesn't help that I got that Vaseline on my fingers, making it hard to hold on to the stick here. But looks like I'm there. Good. All right. Got the consistency, got the stuff, getting the bubbles into it. Look at all them bubbles going on. All right. So we have released it. We've cut the coins or keys into it. And now, I'm going to have a big cleanup out here now. That's why we do it in the shop where we can make a mess. Get them bubbles out. Okay. Ready? Here we go. Pouring it to the side to let it flow up and around the fish. Come on, all of it. Get all in there. And then fish suitably encased, just like a fossil, in plaster. And now this piece can set aside for about an hour or so. The bubbles will slowly work themselves up and out and away from the fish. And then we will take the sucker apart and see how our two-part mold came out. All right, tune in. Good. Well, my camera crew went out to the store and has not come back yet, so we're going to try to unpack this ourselves. Now, I cut away the top part of this and I've sliced open the sides. When you're dealing with unpacking these things, it's always best to try to dismantle the container it's in rather than try to save it. I mean, this is just a piece of plastic, so I don't care if I keep it or not. But I'd rather have damage to this than have damage to the mold inside. Now, if you're dealing with rubber or the silicone or the urethanes, they will not break. The plaster may break. Now, if you notice, I've got like a nice little seam here as to where the top and the bottom are separated. Top came out thinner than I would have liked. And let's see if I can, there, did it. So there we have it. Now, notice all the details. Some of the plaster still stayed on the fish regardless, but I've got my coins right there. So now when I have to put this back together, it will snug together. And now I simply need to take the fishy fish out. Come on, fishy fish. I may need to get, oh, there it comes. All right, no more fish. So here we have plaster mold in 2 parts. Now I will have to make some modifications to this before we actually mold something in it and make our copy of the fish. But there we go. Thank you very much for the 2-part mold. Please go to the question section now.